Hello everybody, and thanks for joining me today in this class on the subject of AutoCAD to InfoWorks and how we can reuse the data that they've already given you. My name's Ian Robinson. I'm the infrastructure consultant here at Greytec. I'm based here in the UK, but our international delegates, you'll still be able to use all the principles in this class, as there's very little difference between the nations when it comes to data and AutoCAD drawings. So Greytec are a market-leading multinational company that provide customers with all the tools, training and consultancy to design, simulate, fabricate and manage construction and manufacturing projects. We provide all the necessary tools and knowledge to ensure BIM compliance. This presentation is aimed at the Greytec design stage of BIM for the civil engineer who's starting on a housing project, where the most common starting point is a 2D AutoCAD plan received from the architect. Very quickly we can generate full 3D models and begin the true BIM process. So the architects do some brilliant stuff in say Revit. You get some fabulous buildings in Revit, and then the planners, all they really want is a kind of site layout, and what is it you get? A 2D architectural plan. So what does the client want? Well, they often want a beautiful 3D rendered model of the site, and they want it faster than last time. You've got less resources than you had 2 years ago. So in this session I'm going to show you how to extract the data from a 2D architectural plan and use it to generate the 3D model at the start of the project, and from this vantage point the engineering can begin. Right, so let's begin. So this is what you've received, a 2D drawing. It's just in plain old boring AutoCAD. I am using the full version though, not LT. With LT you can manage data links, but you need to create them with the full version. And of course the full version is built into Civil 3D, Map 3D and of course AutoCAD as well. Excuse me. So yeah, we've just got a base plan, and what we want to do is get as much information out of this as possible, and then we can use that later on, and we've got all the tools to do that in AutoCAD Map 3D and above. So AutoCAD Map 3D and AutoCAD Civil 3D, because we can export these as a shape file or an SQLite file or a spatial file that can be read by any spatial database. Now of course, if you are a AutoCAD user, you can use AutoCAD Map 3D. You don't have to download AutoCAD, just download the right version. AutoCAD Map 3D gives you everything that you get in AutoCAD, plus this ability to do the export shape files and import shape files and spatial databases. Now once I've got this drawing, sometimes I get it in millimeters, so I've converted it. I just dropped it into a meters drawing and it automatically scales it and what have you, and then I check the coordinates. The coordinates look about right. Probably the best thing to do here is we can do some kind of constraint checking at this point as well. So if we were to pop it into Civil 3D, which I've done here, literally just use the insert command. In the new 2020 version you get this new insert palette, and you can see I've just literally dropped the drawing in, the whole drawing in. And then all I've done is I've frozen off all the layers that are not relevant and just left me with the layers that are suitable, that I can use that information of. We can just double check it's in the right place. So if I turn the aerial map on, there it is. So that's the field we're going to develop, somewhere in the middle of England. Okay, so we're going to put the housing estate on there. So let's just have a look at things like constraint checking. So you'll see later on that I'll be doing a presentation on digital data and how you can understand first of all digital data and where we can get more information from the Environment Agency and DEFRA and all this sort of stuff. And with Civil 3D and Map 3D you've got this task pane. So if I wanted to for example, understand whether what the flooding data is going to be like on here. It's nowhere near a river, so flood zone 3, which is the common one that everybody uses in the UK, isn't suitable. It's not going to show any flood zone 3 in this area. But of course you get surface flooding, don't you? So what we would do is we would go over to the Environment Agency website via data.gov.uk and we'd have a look. So here's a document that I've produced that is available on our website, which allows you to understand data, but I'll be doing a presentation on this later on, so it's a bit of a preview of that. And if we were to go to data.gov.uk or environment.data.gov.uk is the shortcut straight to the Environment Agency, you can see that we've got flood zone 3, flood zone 4, we've got LiDAR data, and we've also got web mapping services here. So you can see there we've got surface water, 0.1% chance of flooding. They also do 0.3%, so 1 in 30 year, 33 year, 1 in 100 year, 1 in 1,000 year as well that they do. And we can connect directly to their data, so you're getting the very latest data in there. So all we need to do is open up the task pane, connect to the data, go to WMS. Now if you've done one before, WMS, here we go, you'll probably see it's still in the list there. So these are the ones that I've done recently. And we can just connect to that data. It always asks for a login, and they never have one, so you just click login. And it's going to connect directly to their server. Basically, I want to see if this field floods, so I'll do a little bit of constraint data. I mean, presumably that's already been done at this point. Now, this data set is massive. It's all of England. It's humongous. In fact, I think it's England and Wales. So it'll zoom me way out to the whole of the UK. So we'll shut that down. And then when you zoom in, that's when the map appears. So I'll just wait for it. It's now going back to the server, and there it is. It's pulled back all the surface water flooding. Bit of a problem around that school there, new building by the looks of it. Bit of a problem at the bottom end of the site, but if we have a look at that feature there, you can see it's on a layer called culvert. It's basically a drainage area. So that's why we're not developing at the bottom of the site, because obviously it's got flooding information, flooding data on there. And we're just going to develop at the top, which is nice. And there's no major surface water problems at the top of the road as well, so nothing's going to fall onto the site. We'll have a look at the landform of the site in a minute as well, so we'll be able to see what's going on there. So that's useful. I'm just going to disconnect from that data set. Of course, you can plot that out. It's all part of the Open Government License, so you're welcome to use it and print it out. It's the same data you get when you go onto the Environment Agency website and you look at the little map, the little window of that information, and a lot of you just screen grab it. Well, you can get the data directly from there. Right, so let's just turn that map off. Don't need to see it now, it's just going to get in the way. Let's start getting this data out. So looks like I need to do a bit of a regen. There we are, that's a bit better. So if I select maybe the roads, maybe the footpaths, take this water area. There's something in there, this polyline here. These here, that's driveways. And I guess these are grassy areas. Let me just select similar. Check I've got everything I need. Yeah, I think so. So let's output this so we can use it in InfoWorks. So map export. Basically, importing and exporting in AutoCAD, you just type import or you type export. If you're going to do it in a spatial file format and you're using map 3D or civil 3D, just put the word map in front of the command. So if I want to export, it's map export. If I want to import, it's map import. So map export. We'll do it into this live folder. So we've got a new one here. Okay, and we'll call this one site coverage is. Okay. You can do it as a shapefile. There are other ones. Suitable ones for use in InfoWorks are SDF, shapefiles, SQLite. They're probably the most useful ones. And it'll read others as well, but they're the most common ones. Shapefile's good because obviously it's used in a lot of other software as well. So site coverages. Okay. Now with shapefiles they're a bit awkward because you have to tell it whether it's a point, line, polygon or text. You can only do one at a time, you can't do all of them in one go, so we'll have to do the line separately. So we're going to do polygons. We need to select them in the drawing. Now I've pre-selected them, so I have to just hit this button. That's them now in the selection set, and just hit enter. You can see in the command line it said down there found 49. So that's them all selected. We need to add some data on there, so when we read it into InfoWorks it understands what a footpath is and what a garden is, etc, etc. So I'll just add in the attributes and just pick the layer name. I checked all that before, it looks okay, the layer name. And then in the options we need to treat closed polylines as polygons, because these are all line work and coverages are polygons, so we need to have them as polygons, because of course it could be that that is a fence that runs all the way around in a circle and you need that as a line even though it's a closed polygon, so you wouldn't tick that in that case. So let's just have a quick recap. Layer, that's fine, we've selected everything, just hit OK. It should tell me there, right, there was 45 objects of 49 were exported. So there was a few objects in there that were not closed polylines, or there was something wrong with the geometry and it wouldn't let me do it, wouldn't let me export it. So we'll not worry about that at this stage, we can check it afterwards if we want to. Okay, so that is all of the coverage areas. The site boundary will be useful as well, and that will become clear later on. So if I do the same thing again, map export, okay, and we'll call this one site boundary, okay, and this is going to be a polygon as well, and this will be useful to set the levels of the site. This is obviously only useful when you've got a single level. You just want to flatten it for the model, for the purpose of the model, and then you do the engineering and get all your levels out of it. It is on a slope, this site, so the engineering side will come afterwards. So polygon, select manually, select it, it's got it now. See, it says there one found because we've already pre-selected it. And on the data, we don't actually need any data on this. It'll add an ID, everything's unique in the database. I'll put the layer on anyway. Shouldn't be any need for that, and again I'll treat it as a polygon, so it should say in the command line 1 export. It took no seconds at all, so that was nice and quick. Next is these fences. So there's a few fences here, all different types. They're all in a bit of a funny place, so it'll be interesting to see how these will look when we import them. I suspect it'll look not great, but at least we'll get something in. So that will do for fences. Oh, this is a fence as well. Not sure what that is. I'll not bother bringing that one in. Yeah, I think that's okay. So yeah, let's go with that. I don't think there's anything else missing. So again, repeat last command, which is map export. And we'll call this one site fences. Okay, now this time they're lines, so they're just lines. Again, select manual. They're now all selected. You can see 26 selected. Data. There are different types of fences in there. We probably won't have time to go and do them all, but they're all on different layers, so we'll go with that. And we'll go options, and we don't treat closed polylines as polygons. Now it won't let you because we've told it that they're lines, so there's nothing we need to do there. So there we are, 26 objects. Exported. So that's the kind of geometry that we can use on our site. But what about the buildings? Let's go back to the AutoCAD. We've got all these blocks here. They're just standard blocks. Look, block reference, house type D, block reference, house type A, etc. We could get that information out, and then there's also these trees as well. These are block references, tree canopy. We've got different types, PTRC, PTRD, probably something to do with the sizing in there, something like that. So we could pick out all of them as well, and let's export them. Now I don't have to go and find all these. because in AutoCAD we've got, if you just go to the Annotate tab, you've got this Extract Data option here. So let's give that a go. We'll extract the data. Let's create a new data extraction. Hit Next. And we'll go into the Live section and we'll do the houses first. Houses. Save. Okay, in the settings you can tell it to only extract objects from blocks and not from XRES. That's quite useful. And you can do all objects in the drawing or just objects in model space. So it'll not take the paper space blocks and all that sort of business. So we'll just hit OK on that and do Next. So it's reading it, it's read it all, it's found out what's in this drawing, and what we want to do is not take everything. So I'll deselect everything and just take the houses A, B, C and D. Okay, so just the houses, so that's fine. Hit Next. Now this is the properties of all the houses. So again, I don't want to take everything out. All I really need is position in the X, position in the Y. Don't need position in the Z because it's all flat 2D. Everything will be at 0. I've put it on so you can see that everything's at 0, but it is at 0. And rotation, that would be useful as well, wouldn't it? So we can get it to automatically rotate in InfoWorks. So let's do that. Hit Next. Yeah, not worry about that. There we are. So there's, it gives us an X, Y. There's the position in the Z. You can see they're all flat. And there's our rotation value, which will be really useful as well. So let's hit Next. So we can put them in a table in here, which might be useful. You don't have to. And we can also output it as a CSV file, and that's where it becomes really useful. So if I go into this Live and just call this one houses.csv and hit Next. There's our standard table. Hit Next, hit Finish, place that in there, and that is what we'll end up with. Okay. One thing we could do within the CSV file, instead of having a count number, because it does do that, we could we'd be better off with an ID. You need a unique ID, so we'll just add an ID field to it. So let me go and find that file. So if I go into my data extraction, Live, and houses CSV, probably easier if you open it in Excel. I know some of you have it set to automatically open CSVs in Excel, that's fine. It's a bit slow in it, Excel these days. Right, so I'll just, should we get rid of the count? We don't need it. Just call it ID. Put a 2 there. Highlight them 2 and drag it down. That'll do. So I'll do a save as. Save it as a CSV. And overwrite that one. Okay. So basically that now looks like that. ID, name, position in the X, position in the Y, position in the Z, and rotation. Perfect. So that's good. We could also do the trees, couldn't we? So if I do the same thing again, extract data, we'll create a new one, and we'll call this one trees. Again, in the settings, I can tell it only models objects in here and stuff out of blocks, and so it's just repeat what we did before, so we don't need everything. But what we do want is these trees, that one, that one, that one, that. I don't know what's going on here. There's 2, but we get this, don't we, with when you receive drawings from other people. I suspect they've probably inserted them more than once and deleted them out or whatever, but I do know that these are the values of the trees. So we'll go Next. Again, we don't want all the data. All we need is position in the X and position in the Y. We don't need anything else because the Z value doesn't exist. And rotation, it's just a block. It doesn't matter where it's rotated. So we'll do Next. Yeah, don't worry about that. So there we are. There's all the trees in this drawing and their position. So again, we'll insert into a table and we'll output it to a file, and this one we will call trees. Okay, next, finish. Now we'll just plonk that one next to this one. And there's all our trees. So let's do the same with the data. Trees, CSV, there it is with the count. So I'll open it in Excel. Oh, what am I doing? Open with. Blimey O'Reilly. Call it ID. Change that to 2. Highlight the 2 and drag it down. And then I'll do a save as. Again, I'll just do a standard CSV, call it trees, overwrite that one. Job to good 'un. Right, so to use the CSV, we can use the CSV file in Civil 3D, and I'm going to open a drawing to test them all. Test all these files, just make sure that I've done it correctly. So to bring a CSV file into a database, you're best using ODBC. So if you just hit the Windows key, type ODBC, and then we'll create some new ones. They are CSV, finish. We'll give it a name, I'll call it site trees. I'm not using this directory, they're not on that file, so they're on the H drive. So they will be in my work folder, house builders, data extraction live. So it's that folder there. Okay, so there's the 2 ones there. Did I yeah, I made that one capital and that one not. No, well, at least you know it's the right folder. Hit OK. In the options, we just need to tell it it's a CSV file. We also need to define 1 or 2 things as well. So I'm happy with CSV. We now need to define the format, and there's the 2 tables that are in there. So we'll pick houses. They have column headers, and we're going to guess what each column is. So you hit the guess key. So it's read all the columns, and it guesses that the ID is an integer and the name is a character, and that makes sense. Position X, position Y is floating with decimals, and rotation is floating as well. So I'm happy with all that. That looks pretty good. So okay with that. And with the trees, we'll do the same thing. Column header, CSV, guess, just double check integers, characters, and floating. Hit OK. Don't worry about that if you get failed to save the attributes. It will have done it. If I was to go back into define format, you see it's already done it. So it has remembered it. So we're OK with that. Hit OK, and that is how you do ODBC. So we now have a link that we can do called whatever I called it. I've forgotten what I called it already. I think I called it site trees, didn't I? Fool I am. Anyway, that's fine. So I'll just OK that. Right, so we've got our empty drawing in Civil 3D. Let's go and get all these files and test them. So site boundary, just drag the shapefile in. Okay, let's see if it's in the right place. It should be. Should be no reason why not. Yep, that looks good. Okay, we can style it in here as well, so I can go into the style if I wanted to just style it up. So maybe I would like it in map, in meters, make that red, put a boundary type style on it, border, something like that. And then for the fill, let's say no colour. Did I go no colour? Yep. And width and height, you can start messing with that. Okay. Okay, there's my boundary line. I'll tell you what, let's turn the map off. Okay, didn't like that style, I'll go solid. Be a bit easier one. There you go. You can see it a bit better on here. Didn't come up well on the screen there, so that's good. What else did we do? We then did our site coverages. So let's just drop them in. Great, that's looking good so far. Again, you can style them up if you want to. You can use theme rules now and check that all the layers have been set. So let's just go with we'll just pick a load of colours for now. There we go. Looking good. And of course you can say, look, I'll make the drives kind of dark grey. I'll make the grass area, oh, it is green already, happy with that. I'll make the footpath a slightly lighter grey. Private drive, again, we'll make that grey. You get the idea. And that water area, let's make it blue. So that works quite nicely. We can utilize that data that we've taken out the LT and we can put it in InfoWorks or Esri or any spatial thing. Right, let's just test that tree. So let's go in the trees and the houses. So connect to data. So ODBC this time. Click on here. And I think I called it site trees. I hope so. We can check this. Test the connection. Yeah, there you go. Remember I made that capital and the other one not. So, okay, so pick an ID field. Pick the X category, pick the Y category, don't worry about the Z. X and Y. So there's our trees and our houses. Connect. Let's put them on. We do need to set the coordinates because it's just a CSV file, so it's got not a clue what coordinates it's on. So I'll just pick OSGB. This drawing might be on the old one actually, so I'll pick the old one. Okay, we'll add them both in, add them to the map. And at this stage we should just have dots, which we have. So that's where all the trees are, and these ones will be where the buildings are. And again, you can style them up if you fancy it. So for example, if I style out the trees, we could change the symbol. You're not necessarily, if you've used Map before, you don't necessarily have to stick with these ones. You can load in from any AutoCAD. So if I go and go to my 2D blocks, trees and shrubs, you can pick anything in there. So let's just pick the standard tree 8 one that's in the civil drawing. We'll go map, we'll go meters, we'll make it green. And we'll set it to, I don't know, 10 meters, something like that. And there's your trees. Jolly good. We could do by size as well. We could change the size depending on the size of the tree. Houses. Could do with this by house type if you wanted. So the house A to D, all on that name. And we could also set it again to map meters. Let's make them square. I'm not so fussed about the colour. If you scroll down here, what we could do is we could say set the rotation based on a query. So let me go back in here. So we can base it on a query. So let's get that edit expression. So rather than it saying that, we can say rotation. So it's going to take the rotation of the object. Okay. We're in meters. We're in map. Let's change it to return aspect ratio off, and let's go width 10, 10, and then the height, I don't know, 6, 6. It might be a little bit big, but at least we'll see them. That's the main thing. There's all the different house types. Oh, I have gone massive, haven't I? What's gone wrong there? Map meters 10, 10, 6, 6. Default, that's what the problem is there. So edge, no colour, fill, no colour. Let's try that. I'm a fool, aren't I? I did line thickness. Do you see that? See me do that? It's rotation. I must have just not been looking. That's what I want to do, rotation by rotation. Easy done when you're doing these things live. There we are, that's better. So there's all our buildings and they are rotated into the correct orientation. Perfect. So we're ready to rock and roll now. So what we want to do is we're going to basically, that wants to go into InfoWorks. So let's open up InfoWorks. A lot of you have never used InfoWorks before. We're going to start effectively with nothing. So what we can do is we can use the model builder to build up our site. Now, rather than me having to go and find it, what I could also do is extract in AutoCAD Map 3D or Civil 3D the big boundary. Just draw a rectangle around the whole site, much bigger than what you need, and then extract that as a shape file, which I've done before, because if I see these here, what I can do is I can import that shape file. You just need to put the shape file in the projection file, and what it'll do is it'll tell me where that is. And there it is, yay! If I change that to aerial, our site's in the middle of this square. There's our site, and there's a larger site. So we're going to get the data for this whole area. And all you do is you give the model a name and create the model, and it goes off and it downloads all the data. It gets roads and buildings from OpenStreetMap, it gets imagery from Bing Map Server, and it gets the levels from the USGS server. So again, the data cheat sheet that I've produced that will be online shortly has all that information in there where that data's got from. Now it'll take about 5 minutes on an average day, 10 minutes maybe on a busy day for that data to come down. All that'll happen is I'll get an email saying the data's arrived, and it'll just appear in a square in here, and I just click on it and it downloads. Dead easy. But obviously you don't want to wait, so here's one I've done earlier. So this is just what it downloads. Basically it's planet Earth, and you put your site on it. It's as simple as that. So in here you can see there's a bit of landform there, so you can see there is a hill there. And if we went to our site, which is this area here, you can see it's not exactly flat as well. So the engineer is going to have to do a bit of work to get this site to work for them. What we're going to do for the sake of the model is just flatten it. And then we can get the model in, and then that model is a good starting point that we can then start doing our engineering works. But of course you'll still do your engineering works in Civil 3D, and once you've finished in Civil you can then import that into here, and what you'll have then is an engineered model that you can share, and you can share it online with shared views. You can give somebody a web address and they can view this model on the internet just using Internet Explorer or the equivalent. Okay, so let's start chucking our data at it. So let's start with the site boundary. So if I go data extraction live and find the site boundary shapefile, drag and drop it in. You just need to tell it what type of data it is, so we'll just tell it it's a coverage area. We'll leave it empty. It's on the British National Grid. We're going to drape it on the surface. We don't need to click to model extents. There's nothing we need to do here. Just close and refresh. And you should have a coverage appear on here. Oh, I think I've locked them. Hang on. Yeah, let me unlock the coverages. There it is. So there's our site, and that's just draped on the surface. What we're going to do, just for the sake of the model at this stage, is we're just going to set the level. I'll just set it at 134.5. Okay, so now I can put everything on there. I seem to have left a plant pot there. That's one I did earlier in the practice. Okay, so once we've done our site, let's add the coverages. So site coverage shapefile. Again, just tell it that they're coverages. And then we can tell it which field would you like to use as the name of it. So we could say the name of this coverage could be based on the layer of the AutoCAD drawing. So that'd be useful, wouldn't it? Geolocation, that's fine, and we do want to drape this on that surface now, so that's good. Yeah, I think that'll do. Click OK. So now I've got loads of coverages, all these different ones here. So what we can do now is we can style them. And if you were to open up your style palette and just pick materials, you could start just chucking materials wherever you like. You know, if I was to just pick concrete, there's the footpath, drag it on, and now it's got that on it. Okay, so we can just drag and drop any style that we want. However, I'm going to clear that because you can use style rules, and we can see here on coverages I've already got some. So basically, if the name is drives, then place it on that layer. So I'll see if I can find one. That's a drive there. So let's have a look at what the name is. Oh, it doesn't show you in the card, does it? Oh, it's probably hidden away underneath there. No, it's not. No, it's not. We'll go into properties. A drives. There we are. Okay. So basically, you can just simply create these rules, and they're very simple to create. You just create one, give it a name. I'll call this one culvert, because that's what they called it. And in here, you can just add a query and say if the name equals. And if we go and select the property, because you've got to write the next bit exactly as it is in the database, so I'd have to go name, I can see them all there. And if I spelt it wrong or didn't put the underscore in or left a space afterwards, it just wouldn't work. And once you've created your query, you give it a material. So I could say go in our material, terrain. Oh, there was a water one, wasn't there? Water, make it water. And that's how you create the queries. And there's queries. You saw I had them preset. They're already in there. You can save and import and export these. So I can export them from here and then import it into a new model for next time. So essentially what you can do there is create a library, like you have a block library, you can have a style library for your InfoWorks models. And that can include all sorts of stuff. So I'll just delete that one. All I need to do is run the rules. It should style them up for me. Perfect. So there's all the grass areas, there's all the water areas and the driveways and the footpaths. So we're getting there. Let's add them fences next. So site fences shape. And we'll just go in, tell it that they're barriers. So any linear structure like fences or walls are barriers. And we could set rules up for this and what have you, but I'm just gonna not worry about that, and I'll just set the style up as to what it is. So geolocation, source, drape this on the surface. You can go to the table and just set the style there, so manual style, and just go in here and say make it a wooden fence. So the fences are coming in. few gaps in them, isn't there? So maybe the AutoCAD drawing's not quite as good as you'd like, but hey, it's a start. Where you have got gaps and you just want to join them up, you can just pick them and just join them up. Job done. So you can tweak it as well. Next job is probably bring the trees in, shall we? Or yeah, let's do the buildings last. So let's drop them trees in. Now, when it comes to the trees, yes, this can read a CSV file, but I'll tell you what's a lot easier. In Civil, just right click trees, export as an SDF or an SQLite. Okay, so we're live, trees, SQLite, save. Do the same with the houses, right click and export to SQLite, live, houses, SQLite. So much easier, because I can just drag and drop that in now. So there's my trees SQLite, drag that in. Tell it that they're trees. Geolocation, drape these on the surface. I'm happy with that. I think we should set the name as well. No, rule style I think I did for the query on that. Rule style to the name. So if we go to our style rules, because it's just brought the trees in as they are, just standard trees. But if we go to tree rules, here's one I did earlier. There's all the tree rules. And it's brought the trees in based on that rule set. Nice. And buildings, let's do the buildings. So buildings, buildings, buildings. Houses SQLite. Now remember, these are just points. So the data itself is just a point. Now I can put them on the buildings, but I want to put buildings in later on in a wider scope. So let me just put the buildings in, but I'll put them this time as city furniture. And the name will be the name. Geolocation, that's fine. Source, drape. But I also want to add rotation. Now there is no rotation in here. We can do it in the table. So if we do rotation around the Z, use the drop down and use the rotation field, it should rotate them in the right place. Close and refresh. So there's all the buildings. They look rotated. Yeah, you can see the eyes are in a different direction, which is good. All we need to do is add a style to it. And again, I've already created a style palette. If I go 3D models, buildings, residential, UK houses, these are all Revit models. And we've put the Revit models into InfoWorks, and if you need to know how to do that, get in touch. So I've got all the buildings pre-prepared and Revit models as a style. Just chuck it. Just import that style, job done. So we'll go to style rules and it'll be under city furniture. There they are. Run the rules. And there's all my buildings. Okay. Now sometimes when you create these, the architect obviously puts the foundations in, and what we need to do is lower them down a little bit. So one top tip, if you are creating a style of a architectural building where they are literally sat above the surface, just drop them down ½ a meter when you create the style. You can offset them ½ a meter when you generate the style, and then you won't have to do that to drop them down. Now the areas that I haven't exported, I could just fill them in, couldn't I? I could just go into my style palette, coverages. Oh no, let's go to materials, terrain, and we'll just do field grass. So I'll just drag that on there just to fill in the gaps. And then we can start putting additional stuff in. You know, maybe I want to draw some barriers, something like that. Like so. Maybe put some vehicles in. Nice fancy sports car. Want it to look good, don't we? Maybe some people. Oh, press the people. Let's have a friendly guy waving. Oh, he's waving at his own house. He's turning round. Like so. And you can spend a lot longer just setting that up. Here's one I did earlier, just to give you something to finish. Put some lamp posts in. I put some Ordnance Survey, just sugar cubed houses in there. A few extra little bits here and there. And we created, you know, some nice views of the site, like so. And there you go, one finished model. So thanks for that. We'll be going to questions and answers next.